Have you heard of CMT? CMT? No, probably not. But it is actually a common neurological disorder and affects around about 23,000 people. It's incurable. It leads to muscle weakness in the lower legs and the hands. Well, a campaign has started to raise awareness of the condition, which is called the Charcot-Marie Tooth. It's named after the scientist who discovered it. Well, let's hear a little more now from a woman on the file who has the condition and wants us all to become greater aware of it. BBC Radio Lancashire's Nishma Hindocha is with her this Tuesday morning. Morning, Nish.
Morning, Brett. Yes, I'm with Carolyn Tolson from Thornton and Cleveleys. When Carolyn was an infant, her parents discovered and noticed that she had an awkward walk similar to her father's, but they didn't realise what it was. Carolyn, many people won't have heard of CMT, Charcot-Marie Tooth. What is it?
It's a neuromuscular condition. It's caused by faulty nerve conduction, which then causes muscle weakness in the lower legs and in the hands and the forearms.
How did you discover it on yourself?
Well, as you mentioned, I had it ever since I could walk. I had an awkwardness, but doctors weren't interested in finding out what it was, despite the fact that my father displayed similar symptoms. It wasn't until we saw a different GP who referred us to a specialist when I was 12 that I was told it was peroneal muscular atrophy. I don't know if I've pronounced that correctly. And I was told it was inherited, but that it wouldn't get any worse. It was some years later, when I was in my 20s, that I suspected I was getting worse, that I went along to the local reference library in Blackpool and had a route through the reference books, the medical textbooks, and found that this condition was also called Charcot-Marie Tooth. And it confirmed that, yes, it was slowly progressive. So that was quite scary to discover that.
How did it make you feel?
In a way, it was a shock to see it in black and white, but it also confirmed what I suspected, because there were things I couldn't do by the time I was in my early 20s that I could do when I was in my teens.
Like what?
An example I can think of is, as a child, I used to like skipping. And I got my old skipping rope out when I was in my 20s, as part of a keep fit drive that I was on, and I found I couldn't jump anymore. I couldn't skip. I couldn't leave the ground. Another thing has been cycling. For some years I didn't cycle because I had a car and I didn't need to. And then when I tried cycling again, my feet and ankles just wouldn't do what was necessary. So I was aware that things were progressing, albeit slowly.
Do you need walking around? I've seen you walk around and you're able to do that. I mean, do you need any kind of support?
Yes, we're in my house at the moment, and of course there's plenty of things to grab onto, because one of the symptoms, or one of the effects of CMT is a very poor balance, because my leg muscles are weak. And so out of the house, I always have at least one stick. These days, my preferred support is a pair of elbow crutches, because if I'm in a shop, I can actually let go of them to handle change and such like, and they make me feel very safe. Steps are a problem, in particular when I'm outside. I always look for the dropped curb, even though I'm on my feet.
Would you say this disability has made you try new things that you probably wouldn't have tried if you didn't have CMT?
Yes, definitely. I think because I'm a little bit limited now in the things that I can do, such as I can't run, I can't cycle. So I look for different things that will give me some excitement and push the boundaries back a bit.
What kind of things have you done?
Oh, I've had a flying lesson. That was a present from my brother.
Yeah.
I've also tried gliding. I have to say these are one-offs. I don't have the sort of salary to fund these activities. But one thing I did that I definitely wouldn't have done if I had been able-bodied, because I wouldn't even have thought of it, was going on a dog sled ride up in Scotland. I actually read about it in a disability magazine. It was a young lady who had got some mobility problems, and she said, "I've done this, it's doable." It was great. So as we often holiday in Scotland, we made a point of booking on one of these rides, and it was fantastic.
Was it hard to come to terms with you being disabled?
In some ways, yes, because I didn't consider myself to be disabled until about 20 years ago. I used to say, "Oh, I've just got a bit of a funny walk, I'm a bit awkward." But something that was a factor in helping me come to terms with being disabled was the fact I worked with disabled people. I was a handicraft instructor for many years, working with physically disabled people. And so wheelchairs and crutches and this kind of thing, it didn't frighten me as it would frighten people who've never had contact. And also, on a practical level, because I work with disabled people, the working environment was fine for me. It was single-storey buildings, grab rails. So things have turned out quite fortunate for me, really.
Are you still working full-time?
Not full-time. I worked full-time till about 6 years ago. My CMT, because it takes so much effort to do everyday things, it causes fatigue. And I felt so run down that I approached my employers, and they allowed me to reduce my hours to 30 hours a week. So I still work Tuesday to Friday, 8-hour days, and that's quite enough.
How are you raising awareness about this disorder?
Well, September is CMT Awareness Month, and so people like myself who belong to CMT United Kingdom, the support group, we're doing things like speaking to yourself today. We are putting posters in doctors' surgeries, and generally making an attempt to spread the word, to speak to people.
All right. Thanks very much, Carolyn. Thanks for talking to me. There you go, Brett. There's a lot of information out there now, and like Carolyn said, it is the Global Awareness Month, and the special day is on the 28th of September.
Thanks very much, Nitin, and thanks to Carolyn Tolson as well there in Thornton Cleavage.